my sister and I started a YouTube channel that I had been thinking about for a long time called Classic Cinema with the Sage Sisters. I'm the oldest sister, she's the youngest sister, but every time we get together, we're always talking about movies. But mostly we talk about classic movies. And there, as far as I could tell, there were no YouTube channels that talked in depth about like picking one classic movie and then talking about it.
We'll talk about this and much more today. Welcome to a Writer's Day podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to a Writer's Day podcast. My name is Ruth Douthit, and I'm so glad you're here today. We're going to take a little break from talking about books today, and we're going to talk about movies, which is one of my favorite topics. And we're going to look at the story structure in films today with my guest. So if you like what you hear today, please be sure to subscribe over at YouTube and like my episodes on Spotify and follow me and leave a review. I'd love to know what you think of a Writer's Day podcast today. And head over to my website, artbyruth.com. That's right. I always give away a book every month. So sign up for my newsletter and you'll learn more about my upcoming projects like The Streets of Florence, which releases October 7th. It's the last book in my Love and Romance in Italy series. So head over to artbyruth.com today to sign up for my newsletter. Okay, let's get started. Lucinda Sage-Midgorden is here with me today. She is known for her books and also teaching theater. And I've invited her to come on my podcast today to talk about story structure in films because she and her sister analyze classic movies. So you know the drill. Grab your favorite beverage, a comfortable chair, kick back and relax as we analyze a very classic movie called Now Voyager with my friend Lucinda Sage-Midgorden. Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm so excited to have Lucinda Sage-Midgorden with me today. She's an author who's new to me, but you may have heard of her. And so welcome to the podcast, Lucinda.
Thank you, Ruth. I'm glad to be here.
Well, why don't you tell my listeners a little bit about yourself, and then we'll talk about today's topic of storytelling techniques found in film.
Okay, that sounds great. Because I'll start with that. I have been a film lover since I was a child. My parents instituted family movie night. This was way back when there were only 3 national networks on television. And usually cities had, like large cities had an independent station or 2, depending on how large the city was. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest. And we would discuss the movies. Now, my dad had dyslexia. He loved stories. He taught himself how to read, but he couldn't read out loud very well. And my mom worked. So they didn't really read to us at night. You know how parents will read a story to their kids at night.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't do that because my poor mom, when she didn't have great nutrition during the Depression. And so she was tired at the end of the day after a full day of work. But we would talk about the movie, like we'd see a section of the movie, then there would be a commercial. And during the commercial, Mom and Dad would ask us questions about what we thought about what had happened and who were our favorite characters so far. And what did we think was going to happen after the commercial?
How
Stuff
fun.
like that. Yeah, it was really fun. And then at the end of the movie, we would talk about, well, what do you think the movie meant? They didn't use the word theme. I learned that later when I was doing theater, when I was getting my theater education. But what did it mean to you? What was the message of the movie? And so we were watching things on television that had been in the theaters not too long before that. And they would have these special, like the Sunday night movie or the Saturday night movie,
Yes.
a big deal. They'd make a big deal about it. And then they had movies that they showed every single year, like The Wizard of Oz And Christmas, there were Christmas movies that they would show every year, like It's a Wonderful Life. And Ben-Hur was another one. There were Easter movies that they would show every year, and we would watch them again because you always learn something new when you're watching. And because of that, I kind of learned about the structure in it. It wasn't anything I could really articulate until I learned story structure in English and in my theater classes. But I sort of learned that, oh, we meet the characters and then something happens and that starts all the challenges that the characters have to go through. And then there's a point where we know if the main character is going to win or lose, and then it resolves. And then everything sort of is wrapped up neatly in a little bow at the end. So stories became something that I pursued. And so I worked in Montessori schools and daycare centers and that kind of thing. And I would read I loved reading the little kids, their storybooks.
Mhm.
That was fun. But when I did go to college, my first degree was in religious studies, and it was in religious studies because I wanted to know the stories of all those people in the Bible. I wanted to know about the myths. I wanted to know about how different religions got started. I wanted those stories you know. So I graduated with that and in 79, but I had met my husband while I was in college, and we got married in 1980, but he still had a year to go. So I added theater and speech to my degrees. So I had a double major when we left. And then I worked for a while, what I call paper pushing, at a paper pushing job, that kind of thing. So it was horrible, toxic work environment. And so after a couple of years of that, I said, I'm going to go get my master's at Portland State University, which is where Barry and I had moved to after college. And I got a theater arts degree in acting. So I was learning how to analyze characters. Why is this character doing what they're doing? Oh, well, it could be because, and some of this came from when we were kids. We'd say, Dad, why is that character doing what they're doing? And Dad would say, well, maybe because of this thing that happened to them before the play or the movie started. So, started analyzing characters, and then I worked in the theater. That Portland has an active theater scene, and I worked mostly in the semi-professional companies, and I did lots of stuff. I mean, when I was in college, I did undergraduate, I built sets, I made costumes, I
Mhm.
I worked backstage, I was the costume prop person. I was an actor, I was assistant director. I did all these things. So I had all these roles. The only roles I never had in the theater were the design roles. I
Mm.
was not couldn't design. Well, I did take classes on how to design sets and costumes and that kind of thing, but I wasn't really very good at that. And so I worked in the theater for quite a few years, and I also taught, like at Vancouver Parks and Rec and Portland Parks and Rec. I taught little kids drama. And but then at some point, I was gone so much. Barry and I hardly saw each other because I'd get home about 11:30 or midnight after rehearsal, and he'd be already asleep. And then he'd kiss me in the morning when he was getting on the train to go to, work or drive to work, whatever. And we'd have maybe an hour at dinner. Yeah, I had to make a decision. And it was a really hard decision. I did not want to stop doing that. But I'm glad that I did, because then I took what I call 5 year sabbatical, writing in my journal and meditating and, trying to figure out things about my life. and where I wanted to go. And then at some point, after that, Barry and I decided we wanted to take this trip around the world.
Hmm.
And so
Wow.
we sold our house to do it, which everyone's like, what the heck are you doing? But we
Wow.
wanted to move to a different location. We didn't want to stay in Portland. And so we had plenty of money for the trip and enough money if we wanted to get a new place in a different location. Well, it happened that both of our parents, both sets of parents, lived in Arizona. So after we got back from our trip, we kind of stationed ourselves at Barry's mom and dad's because they're centrally located and loved it. And but needed jobs because we didn't have jobs. So my husband's a graphic artist, so he got a job pretty quickly. I don't really remember much about those 2 years because I was directing plays, I was teaching full time, and I was going to school full time. And that's when I realized, oh, you know what? I know how to teach these students how to write. I think I might want to write. I started off writing a memoir, which was, I wasn't ready to write it. It wasn't time to write a memoir yet, but I had this idea for a story that I had started way back in 1999, about a woman who travels on the Oregon Trail to Oregon, which is, I'm an Oregon Trail descendant, so
Sure.
and it
Yeah.
became a two timeline story is eventually
Oh.
what happened. It didn't, of course, if you're a writer, you start off with this idea and it grows and it goes off in this direction or that direction or whatever. And that's then I published The Space Between Time. It's like, and
Wow. That's amazing. You've done a
yeah, and that's
lot in
not
your
all I
life.
do, but that's mostly what I do. So Time's Echo is the second book, and I'm in the second or third or fourth round of revisions. It's about to
Mhm.
go off to beta readers.
Very nice. Wow,
Oh,
what an
that's
interesting life story. And it's so funny because my family's like that too. Ever since I was a kid, we would watch a movie either on TV and I'm old enough to remember just having the three networks and Independent
mhm.
Station and PBS, right? And
I forgot about PBS. Yeah.
we would watch a movie and then when it was over, we would just sit there and analyze it for hours. Or
Yes.
I was the youngest, and so my siblings would go see a very popular movie like The Shining that I wasn't
Hmm.
allowed to see. And so I remember
Hmm.
they went to go see The Shining. And when they came home, they had to tell me all about it, and we would sit there and analyze it. So it's so funny how kids in the 60s and 70s, we did
Yeah.
that, before cable TV came out and ruined everything.
Right.
Because
Well, yeah,
then,
in fact,
you had 100
I
channels
was
to
even
watch it.
before PBS. I was
Oh, wow.
even, yeah. So, yeah, but yes, that's
That's
great that
fun.
we have that in common.
Yeah, because I think that's where my love for storytelling came from, is
Mm.
listening to everybody talk about, the story of the movie and the message,
Mhm.
like you said. And I used to love it when I would bring up a movie and someone would say, "Oh, I haven't seen that yet. What's it about?" And that would give me an opportunity to tell the story.
Yeah.
And one time I did that for hours. I think it was The Fly. I described it to
Oh,
my sister-in-law and she was like, "You're really good at storytelling." And for me, I thought, "Okay, maybe I have something here." So that's what I wanted to
yeah.
talk to you
Yeah.
about is you have this background and there's a plot structure that theater follows and books follow. But I don't think a lot of people realize that
Hmm.
most movies, I mean, not all of them, but most movies follow a very similar structure too. So I
Oh,
wanted to
yeah.
pick your brain about a classic movie that you love, and we could talk about the storytelling techniques that the director and the writers used in that
Y-
movie.
Yeah. I mean, this is one that's just coming up that my sister and I are going to do in about 2 or 3. Let's see, Razor's Edge is on the 17th. It's next month. We're doing the 15th of October. We're going to be talking about Now Voyager. It's one that I used to
Yes.
teach in a class called Dramatic Structure. And we would talk about the structure of the movie. Now, yes, it sort of follows that, the the little mountain that looks like a
Yeah,
mountain.
the plot structure.
The plot structure.
Yeah.
It sort of follows that, but there are like four distinct sections in that movie. So there's it's a Betty Davis movie from, I think it's 1942, and she's from this fairly really wealthy family in Boston, but she's the only daughter, and she was like the child that came along when her mom was just about to enter menopause. So she was a late
Hmm.
baby,
Hmm. Yeah.
And she has, I think, three or four older brothers. Can't remember. One of them is dead. And it's her sister-in-law of her brother who had died, who is noticing that she is about to have this terrible nervous breakdown because her mother is very controlling, played by Gladys Cooper, who's so excellent. I love Gladys Cooper. And so that's how the story begins, is her sister-in-law has brought this doctor, psychiatrist, who has a sanitarium in Maine or Vermont or someplace like that. Uh, but he's very unusual because he wants them to get outside and learn to play tennis or take hikes and make puzzles and learn how to play chess and checkers and that kind of thing. It's all these socializing kinds of
Hmm.
things that the people who come to the sanitarium do, and they go into town and socialize with the people in town, and of course they have sessions where they go talk to him, but it's all kind of geared toward building their self-esteem because that's what she needs. Charlotte is her name, is the character name, Betty Davis's character's name. And the thing about that movie is there are like these four distinct, so it's the whole going to the sanitarium, that's the first section. The second section is her sister-in-law and the doctor have arranged for her to go on a voyage, a sea voyage.
Hmm.
And so there's that section. And while she's on the sea voyage, she meets this man. The first time that she emerges, because from her, she takes her a while to emerge from her cabin. But they're doing a port of call and they're going, sightseeing at this South American city. And she is paired up with Paul Henreid's character, Jerry, I think his name is. And, he recognizes in her things that are similar to his life. And as she talks, he realizes he's married to a controlling wife who is not treating their youngest daughter very well. She tries to
Oh,
control, and Charlotte has gone through this whole thing with a controlling mother, and so
yeah.
uh they know, Charlotte knows at the beginning that he's married, but they fall in love. Of course, they're
Hmm.
not going to do anything. And it's, the book, it's based on a book, and they never do anything except for kiss each other. But but uh him loving her helps her get over the last hurdle
Hmm.
of loving herself. So then there's this next section when she gets home. How is she going to deal with this controlling mother when she gets home?
Hmm.
And she gets home because Dr. Jackwith, the doctor, tells her you need to do this like balancing thing. Treat your mother with respect, but don't let her control your life.
Hmm.
So she gets home, and Jerry has always purchased a certain kind of flower for her. And so the day she gets home, this box of camellias, I think they are, arrive, and she knows he's thinking of her and supporting her in trying to integrate back into her old life. And she's lost weight. This is a great thing about this movie. Her costumes show the evolution of her character.
Hmm.
So she's wearing really dumpy, what I call industrial strength shoes. There's a focus on her shoes in the beginning of the movie. And then later, when she's coming down the gangplank, there's another focus on these really fashionable shoes, but all of her clothes
Mm-hmm.
evolve and her hairstyle evolves. Everything evolves to show her loving,
Transformation, yeah.
her transformation into loving herself. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so everybody, all of her brothers and sisters-in-law are shocked when they see her, except for the one who's been helping her. That night they're having a dinner for to welcome her home. Well, right off the bat, she declares her independence in a really very creative and non-combative, confrontive way. But her mother's really ticked off about it, so she kind of throws herself down the stairs and
Talk about drama.
yeah, really. And they call a doctor and he says, "Oh, she's just sprained her ankle." So Charlotte's the one who has to play hostess. And when she comes down in this beautiful dress with the camellias, pinned to her dress, uh, everybody's like, "Who are you?"
Yeah, is this the same woman?
Right. Right. And then during that section, she does get engaged to someone that she's known for a long time, another from another wealthy family, but she's not in love with him. And his wife has died and he has two boys that he needs help raising and you know, uh
That's just
but
things they
she
did back
wants
then. Yeah.
yeah, but she wants to have a child of her own and when she mentions that to him it's like
Oh.
I don't think he was expecting to have sex with her.
Yeah, it was just the marriage of convenience. Yeah.
Right, yeah. So of course they break off their engagement and then this third section is where her mother dies and after I mean this is an argument supposedly, but Betty Davis hardly raises her voice at all when her mother has a heart condition and she has a heart attack and dies. And so Charlotte's thinking, "Oh, I did this. I killed my mother."
Yeah.
And
Dun
she
dun
goes up to
dun.
the
The crisis
sanitarium.
point. Yeah.
Right. And she goes up to the sanitarium and who should she meet but Jerry's daughter
Oh,
that the mother has been
perfect.
trying to control. So this is the fourth section of the movie and
Beautiful.
she finds that helping Tina, who is very much like she was when she was a child.
Frumpy and
Yeah,
introverted, quiet. Yeah. Mousy.
and
Yeah.
and hates herself and
Mhm.
hates everybody and uh helping her completes the whole process.
Ah,
And
that's wonderful.
she inherits a whole bunch of money from her mother because the her brothers don't need it. They're wealthy in their own right. And so she somehow they work it out that Tina can come live with her. And she has a studio set up for Tina. She has dancing lessons, maybe. She helps her,
Hmm.
develop and find confidence. Because, sometimes doing the arts I've seen it a whole bunch of times with my
Oh, yes.
students.
Oh, yes.
Do doing the arts just gave them confidence and helped them
Hmm.
blossom. So in the end, of course, he's still married, but they come to check on Tina. Dr. Jackwith and Jerry come to check on Tina, and she's totally transformed.
Wow.
She has a beautiful dress on. She's happy and he feels horrible because he feels like he's imposing on Charlotte. And what she says to him is, "Don't you know that to give and take are the same thing?
Hmm.
You will be giving me Tina, and I will be giving you, the I will be taking and you will be giving. You'll be giving me Tina, I'll be taking because it helps me feel good about myself. And she has expanded, Charlotte has expanded all of her interests. Like she's given money to Dr. Jackwith for a new wing for his sanitarium, and they're going over the
See, yeah,
blueprints. And
she
yeah,
found
so
herself. Yeah.
yeah, so I love that movie, and I love it.
Oh,
But when I
yeah.
would show it to my students, I can't tell you how many students would say, "Wow," because it gives you practical, this is how you can deal with difficult people, but also how you can learn to be happy,
Hmm. You
And
find it within yourself. Yeah.
right, and they loved it. They
Oh,
loved
it's
it.
brilliant. It really
So,
is. I watched it when I was a kid, and my mom
mm-hmm,
introduced me to a lot of Betty Davis movies. But it's a
mm,
beautiful example for us writers on how to make those connections and how
mm-hmm,
to use those literary devices. I mean, she's literally going on a voyage, but yet
mm-hmm,
figuratively, she and emotionally, she's also going on a voyage. And
mm-hmm,
then, like you're saying, she has to find herself on her own
mm-hmm.
and in the most unexpected places. That's the best way to do it when you're writing a story. Have your character
Yeah.
begin their transformation in the most unexpected way. You
Mm-hmm.
know, those
Mm-hmm.
those tend to make for some of the
Yeah.
best stories you've ever read or movies you've ever watched. And so now
Yeah.
Voyager is an excellent example of that. But I love the connection. And here's the connection. And authors out there, you need to do this in your stories. The daughter, when she meets the daughter and sees how she is,
Mm-hmm.
that is everything. And that's why you might be thinking, well, what's up with this guy that she meets? I don't understand. He's just kind of thrown in there. No, as soon as you meet the daughter, then you realize, oh, so that's brilliant writing. I love it when
Yeah.
writers do that. When they show you, they're not just throwing things in the story for nothing. It all has a purpose and it all
Right.
connects to the main character.
Yeah. Well, and it cements their relationship.
Mhm.
If ever his wife were to die, they would get married. But it's like they're going to parent Tina together.
Yeah, it becomes more than just romance now. It
Mm-hmm.
has when she met the daughter, it was an awakening in her
Mm-hmm.
that she was probably never able to fully verbalize to
I
anybody.
know.
But as
Yeah.
soon as she sees the daughter, she sees herself and she's
Oh,
thinking, oh no. And it gives her a whole new purpose, right?
yeah.
It's not just about transforming this girl. No, it gives her courage to go confront her own mother, to
Mm-hmm.
tap into the things she's always wanted to do. But when she comes back and sees the daughter again,
Yeah.
now she realizes her true purpose is to
Yes.
help others, right?
Yeah, right. Because Claude Rains is the doctor, Dr.
Yes,
Jekyll.
yeah, he's in a lot of her
And
movies. Yeah.
well, she has this sort of the sister-in-law who has helped her has a daughter who kind of is mean to Charlotte. She
So she's
teases
like the
her in a
mother. Yeah.
she
Yeah.
teases her in kind of a mean way. But as Charlotte uh grows, she doesn't take that guff from her niece anymore and kind of puts her in her
See,
place.
that's
Well, at
awesome.
the end, it's not just Dr. Jackwith and Jerry coming to see Tina. They come into Dr. Jackwith says, now this is really kind of a dismal looking house. They get in there and her niece is having a party with her friends and they're like roasting weenies in the fireplace and they're just having and it's like Charlotte has invited her niece and her friends. So it's not just Tina that she is starting to engage with,
Mm-hmm.
but it's other young people as well. And actually, Jerry on the voyage has to leave halfway through the voyage. And when she gets back to Boston, her sister-in-law and her niece are just flabbergasted because all these people are, oh, Charlotte, we'll have to get together at
Yeah.
this event. And all these people are like
She's
like
changed. Yeah.
she's the belle of the ball, and they're what?
Yeah. So see, you can have a villain in your story that actually redeems themselves. They change. and the niece is one. The mother, she stayed the same
Mm-hmm.
throughout the whole movie. And you
Mm-hmm.
can have that kind of villain in your story too.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the Emperor in Star Wars, never changes, is always evil.
Right.
But you can have the
Right.
Darth Vader who might change. And so the
Right.
niece is kind of like she's the
Yeah.
antagonist, but at the end, she too changes. That's how
Yeah.
powerful Charlotte's
Yeah.
transformation is. It rubs off on everybody.
Right. And Charlotte's mother really never changes,
No.
although she does tolerate
Yeah.
Charlotte because she wants someone to take care of her.
Yeah.
Although Charlotte doesn't let the nurse the nurse go. Played by, I absolutely love the woman who plays the nurse. There's one line in there where Charlotte says, Dora, I suspect you are a treasure. Because Dora knows how to handle her mom,
So she keeps
Uh,
her. Smart.
yeah, yeah. She's a really famous I can't remember her name either right now, but she's a very famous character actress. And I just love her. So yeah, that's one of my favorites, all-time favorites. It's not, I
Yeah.
mean, like my sister says, people say, "What is your favorite movie?" And I, we both say the same
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
What genre? What
Yeah.
era? What?
Yes. What era are you talking about? Yeah, me too. I'm like that too. I can't narrow it down to just one, but that
Yeah.
is an excellent choice. Any movie with Betty Davis is fantastic, but that one's
Oh,
good because of the writing and the
yeah.
direction. And it's just a good example of how the story structure we use for writing books is it can transfer over to movies. And so you can see why a lot of producers will select a book to
Hmm.
turn it into a movie
Hmm.
because it has a beautiful
Yeah.
structure. And like when you take some books like how Mario Puzo had to transform The Godfather into a movie, he had to
Hmm.
cut a lot out. And same
Hmm.
with Jaws. When you take Jaws, the book,
Hmm.
and they turned it into a movie, it was a completely
Yeah.
different story. I think it was an improvement, but it was completely different.
Yeah.
So you're going to
Well,
have to run into that too.
yeah, but now Voyager was a book too. I mean,
Hmm.
before it was a movie. And after years, reading I finally actually read the credits and saw that it was based on a book. So I went and got the book and I read it, and they're very similar,
Good.
very similar.
Yeah.
Um, there's only a few changes. Like Jerry has three daughters instead of two, and
Oh,
uh, I can't remember. There are some other changes that
yeah.
really were insignificant.
Sure. And they have to eliminate some things to focus closely on just a
Yeah.
few characters.
I mean,
And it works better.
he only talks about his daughters. Tina's the only one we meet. We never meet his wife. We never meet his other daughters.
Hmm.
So of course they didn't need those.
Yeah.
They
Well,
didn't need them all.
wonderful. Well,
Yeah.
that's so fascinating. So folks go out and rent, or it's, I'm sure, streaming on Amazon Prime. Now
Yeah.
Voyager. It
I
is
think
brilliant.
I think you can see HBO Max has the
Oh, the
entire
classics. You're right. They do. They have the classics.
the
Oh,
Turner
that's
Classic Movies
yeah.
catalog. I think you can watch it there
Yeah,
if you
that's
have that.
true. I'm going to watch All About Eve next week because that's my
Oh,
most favorite Betty
oh yeah.
Davis movie ever. Jezebel's a good one too, but I like
Hmm.
All About Eve. That's a
Oh,
brilliant movie.
I have so many favorites of
I know
hers.
there's so many movies that we could talk
Yeah.
about. We'll have to get together again and talk about another one. But
Yeah.
I just wanted listeners who are wanting to be writers to see how you can watch a film and pick out these things that you can transfer into your books and make sure that you're hitting the mark. Because Now Voyager is an example of brilliant writing where
Hmm.
the writer and the director are indeed taking you, the viewer, on this journey through this woman's transformation in
Right.
subtle ways, but in a realistic way, but
Yeah.
very subtle. And then when you finish the movie, you see all the different connections and the
Hmm.
themes, the messages that they want you to take
Yeah.
away from the story. And all of that should be in our books as well. The
Yeah.
author, the reader should be able to pick out connections and a transformation. Your characters
Yeah.
should be completely different at the end of your story than they were at
Y-
the start.
Yeah, and you can indicate that in different ways. Like one of the things that I learned from watching movies was how to read body language and facial
Hmm.
expressions and listen to tone of voice, and is it the same as what the words? So a lot of times, Barry and I will be watching something and I'll go, "Ooh, red flag, something's not quite right there." And then we find out, oh yeah, that it wasn't right. And the other thing
Hmm.
is the whole idea of transforming what they're wearing or what their setting looks like
Hmm.
as they transform. That's another
Hmm.
thing because,
That was
authors,
beautiful. That is a brilliant thing that a director and a writer can do,
yeah.
is to show the viewer that she truly has transformed. Because you and I both know a woman's clothes, what we choose to wear, reflects so much about ourselves, our
Oh yeah.
hairstyle, our shoes, all of that. So that was brilliant. That was like the director's way of saying, look, ladies watching this movie, she's really changed. Look at her shoes, because a man would
Right.
never know. But the women watching that movie were like, oh,
Right.
she's really changed.
Yeah. And just to make a little connection, a movie a more modern movie that I really love is with Hilary Swank and
Mm.
Gerard Butler, and they are a married couple. What
Oh,
is the name
P.S.
of
I
it?
love you.
Yes, and there's that little tiny clip where she sees Betty Davis coming down the plank, and she's got those beautiful shoes,
Hmm.
and it's the thing that makes her go, "Oh, I want to design shoes."
Yeah,
So yeah, you can use.
definitely use things that will matter to your readers. You have to know who your readers are, and then put something in there in your story that really shows the reader
Yeah.
something about your character, and whether it's, what's coming, foreshadowing what's to come, or just
Hmm.
these little sprinkles, these hints throughout your story that they are truly changing, that
Yeah.
something is happening. And then it's fun
Yeah.
to make the character realize, like Betty Davis realized. Then you get to that point where your own character starts to realize, wow, I'm different.
Yes.
Wow,
Yeah.
this is great.
Yeah. And it's because of Jerry. Jerry helps her realize, oh, somebody loves me. Because I don't think she felt like she was loved
Well,
before.
not with that mother, no.
No. And her father, well, we don't know about the relationship between her and her father, but it kind of indicates that maybe they were closer than she and her mother.
Ooh, and
And
there was
because she
jealousy.
mentioned
Yeah.
something about him dying, how she felt when he
Mm.
died.
And the dark history of the characters is important too. And so the mother,
Hmm.
whenever a mother loses a son, it's going to transform her. So maybe when the son was alive, maybe she was nicer. Maybe she had joy, and then his death caused her to go into
Yeah.
this
Well, it was her
downward
husband.
spiral.
Yeah, her husband, Betty Davis's father. Yeah. So, yeah, yeah, but
So
you're
their dark
right.
moment, yeah, it affects how they act.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because she did lose a son too.
Yeah, and
But
that's
they
that's
never talk
serious.
about that. They never
No,
talk about that.
exactly.
But
But when
yes.
I mean, if you've ever met a woman who has lost a son, I mean, it's significant. And
Oh
so
yeah.
just hearing that she lost a son and a husband
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
explains why she's so cruel. It doesn't excuse
Mm-hmm.
it, but it
No.
explains it. And then it
Yeah.
also starts to explain why Betty Davis is the way that she is. So that's what you got
Yeah.
to do in your stories too. Put that backstory in there, that hints of the dark moment that
Yeah.
explains a lot of your characters'
Yeah.
actions.
I think I think authors need to write those. I did write in for the Space Between Time. I wrote a bunch of backstory things and I had them in the book. And then my friends who were helping me shape it said, "Well, you need to know that, but the reader doesn't need to know that, so you can cut that out of your book because
Oh,
it
that
just
makes sense.
slows the
Yeah,
story down." But but I think that the authors need to know the
you do.
backstories.
You have to be able to like interview your character. If your character was
Hmm.
on a podcast and you're interviewing them, they have to be able to answer all those questions. What
Yeah.
happened to you in your childhood? Because childhood trauma affects everything that we do in our adult life. So,
It does. Yeah.
well, Lucinda, this has been so much fun. Oh my goodness, we'll definitely have to do it again. And what's the name of your YouTube show?
The YouTube channel about classic movies is called Classic Cinema with the Sage Sisters.
Excellent.
And Celeste and I both kept the Sage name and hyphenated our names. So that's
Fantastic.
how
Yeah,
we
so
get away with
listeners,
that.
head over there to YouTube and check out that channel. It sounds fascinating. I'm going to have to listen as you talk about these classic movies that I grew up with. I grew up watching them.
Yeah.
And we'll do it again. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you so much, Ruth. It was fun.
That was so fun. And I have to admit, refreshing to talk about movies with someone who loves to analyze film. Like I said, I've been doing it since I was a kid. But it's more fun now that I'm an author to look back and watch certain films to analyze the story structure. And so I hope that you've been encouraged by our conversation. And yeah, definitely head over to YouTube to check out Lucinda's YouTube channel to listen to her analysis with her sister about famous films, because you as an author can learn so much about writing when you watch these classic films. But I hope that you've been encouraged to keep going on your writing journey, thinking about your story structure, making your characters, transform in such a creative way as Betty Davis's character in Now Voyager. And no matter what, overcome those obstacles, because like I always say, someone out there needs to read your story. Thanks for listening. God bless.